two work streams of innovation that eventually converge on better, higher impact products. I can sort of go on and on with more and more stories like this, but I want to, there's very real, I sort of talked about the opportunity piece, and I'm going to end with the opportunity piece, but I don't want to do so without highlighting a few challenges that we face as well. If you look at the news in the last several years, it's been defined by complicated relations between states and what has been a wave of revolutions and popular uprisings in autocratic societies and in democratic societies, of which Brazil is certainly one. Everyone's sort of looking at the Arab Spring, looking at what happened in Turkey, look at what happened in Brazil, and asking the question, is this the new norm? And I think there's a very important aspect of this trend to understand, which is that in the future, while revolutions will be easier to start and they'll happen faster, they're going to be much, much harder to finish. And that's a real pain point for autocratic societies. So 57% of the world's population lives under some kind of an autocracy, and that basically represents the largest portion of the world that's not yet online. So as these countries go from a minority of their population being online to the majority of their population being online, what's going to happen is these citizens are going to generate a lot of noise. So in Iran, you have 72 million physical citizens, but when every one of them has multiple online identities, multiple accounts, multiple email profiles, that country online looks more like it has a population of 600 million people. So then imagine China, 1.4 billion people, with the same sort of virtual entourages following each citizen around, and that country starts to look like 10 billion people online. Even the most controlled autocratic government can't possibly navigate through all of that noise. So that's the dictator's dilemma, the autocrat's dilemma in the future, which is good, we like that. But for the citizens, the challenge that they're going to have is, because these revolutions are going to be easier to start and harder to finish, there's a concern that the accelerated pace of leadership development, the accelerated pace of movement making may actually retard leadership development. So if you look at the Arab Spring, it's very easy to get large numbers of people into the streets around the lowest common denominator, which is we don't like this bad dictator, let's get him out of power. But that's basically where the consensus stops. And what you're left with is a power vacuum and no new leaders and no institutions. And so the reality is a revolution can't be completed without both of those. And so what you have is these revolutions have produced lots of new celebrities, lots of sort of flash in the pan figures, but they lack the leadership skills to be able to run for president, win with a different last name, draft a new constitution, build the institutions, and actually drive the country forward in a way that delivers more than the autocrat that's now not in power. This is why you get Egyptians, and even to some extent, Iraqis saying, we didn't like the days where we lacked civil liberties, but we'll happily keep our mouths shut if things will just stop blowing up around us, if sanitation can be better, and if we can get this economy back. And I think it's a fundamentally flawed perception that in Maslow's hierarchy of needs for a functioning state, people care more about civil liberties than safety and security. It's not that both aren't important, but if you can't go to the market, it doesn't matter whether you can speak freely on the way. And so what's the solution to this? Well, the solution to this is we've reversed the order. If you look at the Mandelas, the Lech Walesas, the Charles de Gaulles of the world, it took them decades to become leaders before they became public figures. Now there's all these new public figures who need to be backfilled with leadership skills. And that's the challenge of autocracies. I know a lot of you in this room are interested in Brazil in particular. Brazil just had its own sort of version of a popular uprising.